In Greece, you can still buy a home by the sea for less than the price of a used motorbike. And yes, it's real, not a trick listing or a falling apart ruin. These are places where you wake up to fishing boats drifting out at sunrise and quiet blue water right at your doorstep. Of course, there's a reason the prices stay low. Ferries can run late or not at all. Winter storms can leave whole villages feeling cut off, and the local paperwork can test your patience. But if you're curious where the real bargains are, this video walks you through 15 Greek islands where seaside homes are still genuinely affordable. And make sure you stick around, because we save the best for the last. Lesvos, forgotten stone hamlets. Lesvos' inland villages feel calm in a very real, everyday way. Nothing fancy, just quiet streets, old stone homes, and a slower rhythm that hasn't changed much in years. When you leave the busier coast and drive a few miles inland, though, the island shifts. Cafes fade out, olive groves spread wide, and the small mountain hamlets start to feel almost forgotten. A long decline explains why. A 2008 study showed some mountain communities dropping more than 40% in population. With fewer residents and more empty houses, the market settled into true buyer territory. And a 2016 preservation rule kept many older homes protected, but also kept them from being updated. Today, the average fixer sells for around $19,000. Average rent is about $300, and daily costs run roughly 18% below the national average. As one local told me, most days, it's just us, the wind, and the goats. You get quiet beaches, friendly neighbors, and room to breathe. Just expect slow offices, patchy internet, and homes that need work. A little farther southwest, the mountains rise and the deals stay just as surprising. Icaria, cliffside longevity villages. Icaria first caught the world's attention in 2009 when it was named a blue zone, a place where people routinely live into their 90s. But behind the long lives is a quieter story of decline. A 2018 regional study found hundreds of unused ancestral homes sitting in the hills, mostly because younger families moved to Athens for work and the steep terrain makes upkeep tough. The older 1993 Cliff Road project helped a little, but many upper hamlets stayed remote, so houses simply sat empty. All of that created a real buyer's market. The average home goes for about $33,000, rent lands near $320, and general costs run around 15% lower than the Greek average. One local summed it up perfectly. If you're in a rush, you're on the wrong island. Still, the upside are real. Fresh food, open-air festivals, and mountain-to-sea views that feel like postcards. Just expect steep roads, slow approvals, and homes needing upgrades. One local summed it up perfectly. If you're in a rush, you're on the wrong island. From these slow-living cliffs, we move to an island where medieval walls meet quiet modern life, but the price tags still stay surprisingly low. Chios, medieval coastline bargains. When you walk through its quiet bays and medieval villages, the island feels lived in rather than touristy. Sitting close to Turkey, it blends mastic forests, small fishing harbors, and old stone towns that still move at their own pace. Its decline has been gradual. In 1997, the EU protected the mastic growing regions, which helped farmers but limited new development in those zones. Then in 2012, an earthquake damaged dozens of older homes. Many families chose to leave them as is. Add in years of younger residents moving to Athens for steady work, and you end up with a lot of unused houses. That's why the average home sits around $40,000, rent around $320, and the overall cost of living about 12% lower than normal. As one local said, "Here, history isn't a museum, it's the neighbor next door." You get affordable seaside life and friendly towns, though renovation costs and limited jobs are real trade-offs. And from these medieval coastlines, we head to an island where cliffs, fishermen, and bargain hunters all meet in one surprising place. Kalymnos, fishermen's balconies by the sea. Kalymnos has that easy working coast feel the second you arrive. It's in the Dodecanese, wrapped in big limestone cliffs that climbers love, and most of the towns sit right along the water. Summers feel busy and bright, but once winter hits, the streets go quiet and the fishing boats become the main soundtrack. The island's decline is pretty simple. After the big 2000 International Climbing Festival, Kalymnos got attention but not enough steady jobs to keep young people from moving away. Tourism comes in waves, so incomes rise and fall. And a lot of older apartments were left behind when families shifted inland, so they're now sold cheap and need updates. That's why the average home runs around $50,000, average rent sits near $350, and overall costs stay about 10% lower than usual. You get clear water, strong community, great food, just expect slow winter transport and limited off-season work. From here, we head to a greener island with softer hills and surprisingly low prices. Thasos, the Emerald Island calm. Soft waves, green hills, and quiet beaches make the whole island feel like someone turned life to low volume. It sits in the northern Aegean, close to mainland Greece, so it feels both remote and reachable at the same time. Its history explains why so many older homes sit underpriced today. Thasos was known for marble quarries as far back as the 6th century BC. The ancient agora once ran the island's political life, but those days faded as people moved to bigger cities. And even after Thasos officially joined Greece in 1912, younger families kept leaving for steady work. Over time, that left a lot of unused houses scattered through the villages. That's why the average home costs just around $60,000, rent averages $470, and living costs land about 20% lower than the country's average. You get green scenery, friendly locals, and low costs. Just expect short tourism seasons, slow internet, and no airport. Head a little farther south, and you reach an island where vineyards and sunshine take over the story. Samos, the island of sweet wine and shaky ground. Samos has always been a place where big ideas floated in the air. This is the island that gave the world Pythagoras. Long before modern Greece, Samos was a hub of thinkers, traders, and travelers. Philosophers met in shaded courtyards arguing about the stars, the soul, and how the world works. For thousands of years, knowledge, wine, and culture flowed through this place. But slowly, life shifted. By the 90s, younger families left for more reliable jobs on the mainland. Old homes stayed empty. Tourism drifted toward larger islands, and after the 2020 earthquake, some hillside villages were left with cracked stone walls and roofs that needed more than a patch-up. With just $55,000, you can actually get a small stone house here, the kind with a quiet balcony and a little sea breeze drifting in. And if you'd rather rent, places usually sit around $420. Daily costs are about 18% lower than the Greek average, so life feels a bit lighter on your budget. And the lifestyle? Calm beaches, good food, and 2 towns where you can find everything you need without circling the whole island. But it's not all sunshine. The earthquake risk is real, the paperwork moves at naptime speed, and the buses, well, they come when they feel like it. But if you prefer an island that feels more like a secret hideout than a historic landmark, the next one might grab you. Alonissos, the quiet pine haven. Alonissos is the kind of place where you hear your own footsteps, and maybe a pine cone dropping if the trees feel dramatic that day. It's tucked in the sporades, wrapped in forests, clear water, and small coves that feel almost private. Life moves slow here, and no one seems in a hurry. Homes average around $60,000 to $85,000, rent runs about $400, and the cost of living sits about 15% lower than most of Greece. You get clean water, quiet trails, and a close-knit feel. The downsides? Fewer jobs, slow ferries, and winters that feel really quiet. A local fisherman joked, "If you want noise, bring it with you." Still, for buyers who want peace, it's a rare, affordable corner of the Aegean. And just when you think the scenery can't get prettier, the next island proves otherwise. Leros, the island of hidden harbors. Leros feels like a quiet notebook page. Soft hills, white houses, and little bays that make you slow down without even noticing. It's a small Dodecanese island with deep natural harbors and pastel villages that almost look hand-painted. Life moves on fisherman time here, steady, simple, and never in a hurry. A lot of its housing stayed cheap for very real reasons. Many old homes date back to the Italian occupation in the 1930s and weren't fully updated. After the Battle of Leros in 1943, some areas never rebuilt at full speed, and when younger residents left in the 2000s, whole neighborhoods aged out quietly. So today, the average home price sits around $78,000, rent hovers near $480, and daily costs are roughly 12% lower than the Greek average. As one harbor worker joked, "We don't rush here, only the boats do." You get safe villages, gentle winters, great seafood, and yes, a few fixer-uppers. And if that price still feels surprisingly low, the next island dips even further. Karpathos, where the wind has stories. Carpathos is a bit of a legend in the windsurfing world. It has hosted the International Windsurfing Championship several times, and that steady, powerful wind is basically part of the island's personality. Ask anyone here and they'll tell you, the breeze never really takes a day off. That wind shapes everything. Sitting between Cretan roads, Carpathos feels wild and calm at the same time. High cliffs, bright blue water, and villages that still hold on to old traditions. The average home is about $102,000. It might feel a little pricey at first, but rent sits around $500, and daily costs run 15 to 20% lower than the Greek average. You get friendly locals, empty beaches, great hiking, and yes, a few challenges like limited winter flights, slow paperwork, and winds that might surprise you. And just a short hop away, the next island brings a softer breeze and a totally different rhythm. Kos. Sun, sand, and more apartments than you expect. This small Aegean island sits just a few miles from Turkey, with flat bike paths, calm beaches, and busy little port towns that never feel rushed. Prices dropped here for a few clear reasons. First, a huge hotel and apartment boom in the 1990s and early 2000s flooded the market. Then, the 2017 earthquake damaged parts of the port and many older buildings. Add years of seasonal tourism and young people moving to the mainland, and demand stayed soft. Today, homes average around $90,000, rent runs about $500 a month, and daily living costs sit 10 to 15% below the Greek average. Kosians also take biking seriously. A local laughed and said, "If you don't like biking here, you don't like biking anywhere." Now, let's drift closer to Athens, where green hills meet another unlikely bargain. Andros, the green Cycladic escape. Andros feels like someone turned down the volume on life. Soft hills roll into green valleys, a gentle breeze stirs whitewashed villages, and time seems to move slower here. Just a short ferry from Athens, the island blends fresh springs, hiking trails, and classic Cycladic charm. Its property history shaped today's bargains. The famous Syriza Spring has drawn visitors since the early 1900s. Summer festivals like the Andros International Festival attract crowds but mostly in season, and shipowner families dominated the maritime scene in the 1950s to 70s, keeping many estates in private hands. With homes now averaging $95,000, rent around $500 a month, and costs 5 to 10% below the Greek average, prices stay surprisingly gentle. A local said, "Here, even the goats walk like they're on holiday." Life on Andros moves at that easy pace. Quiet beaches, fresh local food, and a short ferry ride to Athens make it comfortable. Jobs are limited outside tourism, and public transport can be sparse, but for patient buyers willing to embrace the slow rhythm, this island offers a rare Cycladic opportunity. Keep moving through the Cyclades and you'll land on an island with elegance, history, and a surprisingly modest price tag. Syros, the neoclassical island that acts like a small city. Steeping into Syros feels a bit like walking into an old music set, all soft colors and warm stone. Nothing loud, nothing rushed. The streets wind up the hill, cafes sit in shady corners, and the whole island moves at its own steady pace. The island has had its ups and downs. The shipyards used to be busy, then work slowed. Young people left for bigger cities. Tourists started chasing the flashier islands with the bright white houses and big beaches. That left Syros quieter, with good homes that never shot up in price. Right now, most places run around $100,000. Rent usually lands between $600, while day-to-day costs sit close to the Greek average. It stays cheap because it doesn't fit that classic postcard look. Some beaches are rocky, and parking in Ermoupoli can wear you. Before we move on the top 3, I want to briefly recap and compare some of the island that we already covered. Lesvos still sits at the lowest end, with older homes averaging around $20,000, sometimes dipping into the $11,000 to $27,000 range. Chios stays steady near $40,000. Leros and Alonissos fall right in the middle, usually $70,000 to $85,000. Then you move to Kos, where most places land near $110,000, and Andros, holding a similar $95,000 to $130,000 range. So what does all this mean? These islands stay affordable because they're calm, low tourism, and move at their own pace. They're great for retirees who want peace, creatives who need breathing room, and digital nomad who like quiet days. They're not a fit for anyone craving big nightlife, non-stop flights, fast commutes, or something to do every hour. Now let's moving on to Paros, Cycladic beauty minus the crowds. Step a little inland on Paros and the island instantly feels calmer. Almost like someone dimmed the whole place. The alleys narrow, the hills open up, and you hear more wind than people. Paros sits in the center of the Cyclades, but inland villages like Lefkis and Prodromos feel far from the busy ports. You get tiny cafes, old stone homes, and cats living their best lives on every doorstep. Most inland homes average about $145,000. Rents sit near $700, and living costs run roughly 10% above the national average. The price isn't cheap, but the calm, the scenery, and the lifestyle make it worth it. Tourists usually stay on the coast, buses run on island time, and summers can still feel busy. But for buyers, this is Cycladic beauty without the Mykonos shock. But if you head south to Greece's giant of an island, the story shifts into something even bigger and still surprisingly affordable. Crete coastal villages, where the island feels like its own little country. Along the coast, villages like Paliokora, Makrogialos, and Agia Galini give you that easy seaside rhythm but still keep groceries, cafes, and daily life close by. This island has seen everything. The Minoans built the Palace of Knossos around 1900 BC. The highway expansion in 2018 made long drives far easier, and Crete still sends out more than 120,000 tons of olive oil each year, keeping its farming roots strong. Most homes in these coastal towns average around $110,000. Rents sit near $575, and living costs run about 15% below the national average. A local once said, "Eat first, worry later. That is the Cretan way." It stays affordable because the island is huge, giving buyers plenty of choice. The trade-offs are long distances, hot summers, and slower winters in rural pockets. But for buyers, this is a rare mix of low costs, good services, and real island life. And finally, we head east to an island that blends medieval charm with warm winters and still keeps housing surprisingly reachable. Rhodes. Sun, history, and homes that don't break the bank. Rhodes has always been a place that holds its ground. Back in the 14th century, the knights built the Palace of the Grand Master, and those huge stone walls still shape the island's character today. The island sits close to Turkey, with long beaches, a UNESCO old town, and coastal villages like Lindos, Afantu, and Koskinu. Places where days move at a slow, warm pace. Bright homes, simple cafes, and sea views everywhere you turn. Most homes now average around $125,000. Rents hover near $680, and the cost of living sits right at the national line. A local once told me, "Winter here is a gentle guest. It never stays too long." And honestly, that sums it up. Prices stay fair because Rhodes has a huge supply of homes. The downsides are the summer crowds, some traffic near the port, and slow paperwork if you're renovating. But for buyers, this is a sweet spot. Real history, real beaches, and a market that still works in your favor. From Icaria with its slow-living charm to Kalymnos with its cliffside views, back through its friendly harbor towns, and all the way down to Rhodes with its grand old streets and warm beaches, each island brings its own flavor. So, if you had to pick one, where would you want to stay? Drop your thoughts in the comment. And if you want more stories about places that feel a little beyond the world, go ahead and subscribe to our channel.